Hey everyone, hope you're having a great holiday week and staying safe out there. So for this year, I thought I'd try a different approach and celebrate the holidays by talking about the game that allegedly ruined said holidays for kids all over. Yes, E.T. for the Atari was heavily criticized upon release. The hate went so far that it was even labeled as one of the major causes of the infamous video game crash of 1983. So, what the heck happened? If you saw my video for Yar's Revenge, then you already knew that the game's developer, Howard Scott Warshaw, was more than capable of making excellent games for the platform. How could one game cause such a ruckus and make such an impact on gaming's entire economy like that? Well, gather round, grab some Reese's Pieces, and we'll see if E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial for the Atari 2600 was really that bad. Released for the Atari 2600 in December of 1982, just in time for Christmas, E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial is a single-player adventure game where you try and get E.T. back to his home planet by phoning home. Literally. The game was developed by Howard Scott Warshaw, creator of both Yar's Revenge and Raiders of the Lost Ark for the Atari 2600. After successfully completing development of both games in little over a year, Warshaw was asked by Steven Spielberg himself, specifically, to work on a game based on the now successful movie. This was likely due to his success with the Raiders of the Lost Ark game, though that's currently unverified. The window of time to work on the game was ridiculously low, as the request was made at the end of July, and the game had to be completed by the 1st of September, a whopping 5 weeks. But Warshaw still felt confident in his abilities to make this game and began planning. After pitching the idea, Spielberg was reportedly unenthusiastic about Warshaw's vision for the game, and went as far as to suggest he make something like Pac-Man instead. But Warshaw convinced Spielberg to go with his idea, and the project was set. The result of all his hard work? Let's take it from the top. The object of the game is to move E.T. in a top-down perspective through multiple screens and areas in order to locate candy and 3 pieces of a phone. After building the phone, he has to find the proper call location on the map, when no other humans are on screen with him, and reach the pickup location, also with no other humans on screen with him, when the timer goes off, allowing him to be picked up and escape. While doing all of this, he has to avoid both a scientist who tries to take E.T. away for experimentation, and an FBI agent who will come up and confiscate both a piece of your phone and take away all your candy. And he's also a jerk who is not invited to my birthday party. Without reading the instruction manual, it's extremely difficult to understand what you're doing here. While walking around and avoiding the scientist and FBI agent, you come across multiple icons displayed on top of the screen, whenever you're close enough to trigger one. Each has a completely different function, ranging from warping you to a different screen, all the way to using telekinesis to stop the scientist and FBI agent from getting you. One of the most helpful is also the question mark icon, which can alert you if you happen to be near a piece of the phone on that screen. One of these also allows you to call Elliot, the boy from the movie, who will either take the pieces of candy you've collected to add to your high score, or give you a piece of the phone if you happen to bring him 9 pieces. All of this is limited by E.T.'s meter on the bottom of the screen, which counts down with every step or action you take. Some of it can also be restored with candy, but there's not much else to prevent it from counting down. If you run out of energy, then you lose a life, which you're given 3 of. You can also obtain a 4th if you happen to find a geranium flower in one of the game's wells. And now, it's time to talk about them. Yes, them. The wells. If you were to ask any gamer what it is that bothered them the most about this release, it was the wells, or giant pits as a lot of gamers used to call it. If you didn't know where you were going or what you were doing, you'd find yourself falling into these quite a bit. And even worse, if you weren't extremely careful, you'd fall right back into them, wasting even more time and energy to get out. Why was this exactly? Well, from what we can tell here, Warshaw made E.T.'s collision detection with these wells pixel perfect, which in this case actually caused more harm than good. As you can see here, even if E.T.'s head so much as touches part of these wells, it causes him to immediately fall into it, despite being far away enough. But the biggest issues would present themselves whenever you try to escape. After flying out of these wells, you're left with a very little amount of room to actually move without falling back in due to said pixel perfect collision. If it could have been programmed in such a way where you'd only fall in after E.T.'s feet touched against the well, then it would have likely functioned better and caused a lot less frustration in the process. As I said before, without the instruction manual to describe all of the items, locations, and ET's various functions, playing and understanding this game is extremely confusing. You simply walk places, have people running after you, one of which grabs you and takes you away, and see a bunch of icons in random places with seemingly no rhyme or reason behind them, let alone any idea of what they do without trying them all out. And even after understanding the premise and feel of this game, it still takes a lot of work to actually win. The frequency that the scientist and FBI agent appear is extremely high, making you have to run from them constantly and pray that they don't happen to appear from the side you're standing on. Oh, come on! It also doesn't help that seemingly every screen in the game is trying to stop you from achieving your goal. It's especially annoying when you switch from one screen to the other, only to immediately fall into another well if you happen to walk in the position of said well on the next screen, which you'd have no way of knowing about or preventing without some kind of trial and error practice. And of course, flying out of these wells takes away far too much of your energy each time. Death is almost inevitable at first. Okay, so we've acknowledged that the game is frustrating for sure, but does it really deserve all the hate and infamy it received? Is it truly the quote-unquote worst game of all time? To be honest, no, I don't think so. In fact, I don't even think I'd put this one in a top 10 list of worsts. While the game is still an exercise in pain and frustration due to some artificial difficulty constraints, you can clearly see the blueprint for a decent experience in there. The idea of exploring multiple areas through multiple screens is something we all take for granted now, but at the time, it was a relatively new concept, as only a few other games like Adventure and Haunted House went with this method, and actually contributed to many players' confusion with the game, seeing as there was nothing else to really compare this title to back then. The idea of the wells themselves isn't so terrible, as I believe tweaking the collision detection with the holes as ET walks by them would have caused far less accidental falls. The animation for flying out of the wells would have also benefited from being a little faster and consuming less energy. What I'm saying is that when you think about it, this title was actually quite ambitious, albeit seriously flawed, and that based on the 5-week time frame that Warshaw was given to make this game, it's nothing short of a miracle that it even turned out this good. Funny enough, I think that time has actually done this game a bit of a favor, as gamers of today can pick up on what they are doing much faster than those in the 80s likely could. It's still a broken mess for sure, but I feel like simply dismissing the game with a phrase like, "it's bad" or "it sucks" is not really fair or accurate. In fact, if you visit the site neocomputer.org, which I'll link you to below, and look into the various fixes made, you'll get a much better idea of what could have been, had Warshaw been given a more realistic time frame to complete the game in. So again, I have to emphasize that yes, this is a bad game due to its various issues and lack of quality control, but I do not believe it is the worst game of all time. Not by a long shot. I mean, this is a world where games like Bubsy 3D and Zelda the Wand of Gamelon exist, people. If anything, I believe this game deserves to be looked at as one of the prime examples of what can happen when a studio tries to rush something out the door during a set period of time, showing that they only care about what sales could come of it and less about the product's actual quality. Warshaw is not to blame for this. Studios hyping up a product that was clearly not ready to be released, producing an overabundance of cartridges based on nothing more than the product's name, and using games like this one as a scapegoat to cover up their own commercial failures, however, is... And that is the real lesson to take from all of this. And that's going to do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Have you played this game before yourself? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're feeling generous this holiday season, please consider donating to my Patreon, where awesome people like Brandon, Thomas, Johan, Cielo, and Andrew all help to keep this channel alive. Until next time, my friends, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you all. Read your instruction manuals. Good night.